I know you got an amateur in the goalie, but I need you guys to lift me up high today. And do it for all the TBG fans, because this can ruin my reputation for a long time to come. So everybody in here, TBG on 3. All right, TBG on 3. 1, 2, 3. TBG!
Michael Jordan left basketball to try baseball. Paul LaDuca left baseball to try street hockey. And in net, Paul LaDuca, look at the stops. Have you played this game before?
Never played before in my life and never want to play again.
Are they crazy going to your glove side?
Yeah,
I mean, what's all that about?
Watch the next save, Tom. Watch the next save, because I talk a little trash after it. That was a freak goal that I let
Went
in.
over your head.
Yeah, it went on the back of my head. But this next save I make is just Patrick Wash.
Save. That is a beauty.
What did he say? Did you hear what he said?
And
Don't go to my glove head.
We were victorious. I'm 1-0 with a 3.93 goals against average.
Oh, congratulations.
I'm going to give a shout out to the guys at SoCal Street Hockey, the TBG team. And by the way, our executive producer, Tony Alavato, I got to give him a prop. After I made a game-saving save, he went 60 feet rink on one leg and scored to win the game in overtime.
I guarantee they call the EMTs after that run.
Props
Doing a lot of
for
this.
Tony Alavato carrying Team TVG and Paul LaDuca as the backstop. So well done as you guys march on to a playoff bid. We hope. We'll find out. We'll have a preview show for that maybe coming up later. We're going to move on to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile next, mile and a 16th in this one. And another race that is fairly wide open in here if you think Looking at Lucky is vulnerable. And what do you think, Simon, from an outside post in here? He didn't get any favors in post 13.
Certainly didn't, but as I keep saying, good horses win from out there. Lure did it, Half Bridle did it for Julie Cronin, the juvenile filly. So if this horse is really what we're meant to believe he is, I think he can overcome it. But Bob Baffert, 2 races back-to-back where he's got the dreaded post positions of 1 with Sensational and 13 here with Looking at Lucky.
Yeah, but Looking at Lucky is a good horse. When people look at figures for horses, they look at his figures. He may just be in the top echelon and may not excel those other horses, but he's a horse that when he passes horses, Simon, he tends to pull himself up. Paul, you saw him run last time here. When he gets ahead of horses, he does tend to stop a little bit. We watched his work. It was brilliant.
Yeah, he's a top-class horse. I'm just wondering the horses that he's faced out here in California and the post-position draw. But like I said earlier today, with 2-year-olds, the post-position draw out there is not that bad. A lot of 2-year-olds don't like to be behind horses, and the guy on his back has won many Breed Cup races, and Garrett Gomez, and Bob Baffert's been on all cylinders this whole meet. So to me, Looking at Lucky is the one to beat, but I think the race lies in with the Funny Bone, because I think, to me, if the Funny Bone takes the synthetic, they're all running to second. He's trying to buck a trend of horses that have started on conventional dirt last time to win here. And Rick Duccio, I've talked to him on the phone a couple of times, and he says this horse couldn't be training any better. But the one thing he said is, I have no clue. It's like tossing a coin whether he's going to like the synthetic or not.
That's a big problem if you look at last year's results. There were no horses that prepped on conventional dirt and came in here and won a race. So there's some big question marks with the Funny
How about
Bone.
the fact that he's never been a route of ground? He's only sprinted to this point, and now he's going to try a route of ground. That can be difficult for a horse.
All right, so a couple of things being asked of him in a race that's going to be the toughest of his career. Let's take a look at him in action. This is in the Futurity Stakes, Belmont Park, back on September 19th, his most recent race. This was trying something new. This was going an extra half furlong at 7 furlongs, and he passed this test with flying colors.
Well, there's no question. He absolutely crushed this field. A decent horse in second called Discreetly Mine, who's related to Discreet Cat, and the third-place finisher came back and won. The Sky Has No Limit. So, the form is good. The question is, can this horse get around 2 turns?
Well, I think he's going to be in front, but I think he's a total play against in this, just because, coming first time in synthetic around 2 turns, like Tom said, is a big ask. I think he's the kind of horse you can look down the road maybe next year on the Derby Trail on conventional dirt. I think it's a tough ask coming all the way out here, first time on synthetics and going around 2 turns, although his trainer can do it.
Well, let's bring in Tony Calvin. And Tony, the same questions with Radiohead as well, trying synthetic for the first time and also going 2 turns for the first time.
Yeah, it's a big ask this for Radiohead. Very impressive winner of the Norfolk Royal Ascot, despite getting bumped very badly there. The problem here is stamina. It showed a bit more stamina over 6 furlongs in the middle part last time when second, but this is a whole new ball game. A tighter track, it could well bring out the best in it. And on form, it hasn't got much to find. Only £3 off the Funny Bone this time form stock rated. So Radiohead got a chance, but you're making a big play then if you back this horse if you think it's guaranteed stamina, because I don't think it'll stay.
He is by a sire who beat a horse who came in perfect and was highly regarded by the name of Officer when this was back at Belmont a few years ago.
That's right, Johannesburg, to give Aidan O'Brien a victory in the juvenile in this exact race. That was him on the track earlier this week. I think some distance limitations, even though he is by that size, out of a Belong to Me mare. And he is trying Lasix for the first time, but a lot of questions to be asked here. I mean, if you like that Norfolk winner, I'm not sure. I'll go with the other Norfolk winner on the outside here, looking at Lucky.
The American Norfolk
winner.
We're going to get to him in a moment. Tony, we got to ask you about Beethoven as well for Aidan O'Brien. This horse, I mean, the questions, again, rise with this horse.
Yeah, well, Beethoven, the fascinating angle here is Beethoven improved. It looked a journeyman kind of like 2-year-old until winning the Dewhurst last time. The crucial thing there was it was Visor for the first time, and his sire Oratorio also improved and kept on improving after being tried in a Visor. So that's a very interesting angle for Beethoven, but you just wonder whether this is just an afterthought and it hasn't really obviously been trained for this. Alfred Nobel seems to, Aidan O'Brien's other runner in this, seems to have been targeted at this race, and if you look at its 5th last time, it doesn't tell the whole story because it finished 5th against a draw by. So it probably would have won if it was racing on the other side of the track. So a very interesting runner, Beethoven and Alfred Nobel in this.
Now, this will look at the Vincent O'Brien. He'd have a couple more starts after this, Tom, and the most recent, a Group 1 win where he beat 15 horses.
Well, I mean, you know, when you talk about Beethoven, I think that you do have to say that he has been a horse that has raced an awful lot for a 2-year-old, too. 10 starts this year, then making a trip overseas. You know, to me, that is asking a lot of a 2-year-old this time of year.
Oh, when you look at the one horse, Alfred Nobel and Beethoven, 17 starts between them. I think about 5 of the Americans, if you add them up in here, don't have that between them. So, I mean, these two horses, at the end of the year, typically Europeans tail off. The horses, what's called, lose their coat. I don't think there's much upside here with those two.
Well, we had our contest winner on earlier. Paul is going to have that $10,000 free roll tomorrow. I think a lot of people, some of them might, if they had that $10,000 chance, put it on Looking at Lucky in this race. What do you think?
I think Looking at Lucky has got a great chance in this race. I just think the post position draw hinders him a little bit. I don't know if I'd be putting my $10,000 on Looking at Lucky because I thought there was many other chances in the race. But I think if he was drawing more of the inside, maybe the 1 through 5 hole, he'd be maybe even money in this spot. But I think you might get 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 on him.
This is a horse, Greg, that on our work show, if you pulled somebody off the street and didn't know anything about racehorses, you could show them the tape of Looking at Lucky and they will walk away with the wow factor. He is visually impressive, and I like the way this horse moves. He is a man among boys. He looks like a 3-year-old, and he does what he has to do, Tom. In all his races, he is very professional. He comes from off the pace. He gets to the front. I want you to watch his ears here because when he hits the front, he puts his ears up, and that suggests to me he's done enough. Right here, there's more in the tank. Right there, he flicks his ears up. There's a lot more left below the rider.
And his rider, Garrett Gomez, said as much. He's a clever horse. You know, horses that are smart know how to compete, know how to take care of himself. He does just that. He's not only a horse to mess with tomorrow, but he's a horse for the future, a horse for the 3-year-old campaigns.
Well, he's perfect so far, 4 for 4, and here are perfect champions who were undefeated Breeders' Cup juvenile winners. Warpass, the last, who was 4 for 4, Vindication, and of course we talked about Johannesburg, who beat Officer, who was trying to stay perfect in his 2-year-old campaign.
Yeah, that graphic is all well and good as a 2-year-old. Doesn't bode well for their 3-year-old year, unfortunately, does it? Some of those horses there didn't go on, but Looking at Lucky might buck that trend. He definitely appears to be a horse that's going to go on to bigger and better things.
8 to 5 on the morning line. He's going to get a lot of money in this race. Tom, where are you going to wind up?
Well, we saw the Alcibiades today be a major importance for the juvenile fillies, and I think you'll see that the Kentucky version of that race, the Breeders' Futurity, will do the same. I'm looking at Aconite, the 9-horse in this race, who ran second in the Breeders' Cup Futurity. She Be Wild? Well, he be wild because he did exactly what She Be Wild, today's winner, did in the Alcibiades. He ran a race where he didn't win, but it was his first time 2 turns. He comes into tomorrow's race. I look for Aconite to be a major factor in that race. 4 for 4 and going for more. Of course, I'm talking about Looking at Lucky. One of the best horses in this race. Has a bad draw, but knows how to do it and very professional and really one of the best works that we saw overall. So I'm playing around the 9, Aconite, and the 13, Looking at Lucky.
Mr. Bray?
I'm going to do the same thing, exactly the same thing. These are the 2 horses that I think can win this race, Aconite and Looking at Lucky. You have to say, well, which the best, the East Coast or the West Coast group? And by taking these 2 horses, you've kind of got it covered, with Looking at Lucky being the best of the West. He's got an outside post, but so is Aconite. But I think this horse could improve maybe just a little bit more second time around 2 turns. I'm in agreement with Tom, 9-13.
Did we go unanimous yesterday?
Yeah.
On who?